de bronze, représentant l'Italie.
Bronze medalist representing Italy, Valentina Petrillo.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So Valentina Petrillo ran a season's best in the 200 meters semi-finals at the Paris 2024 Paralympics with a time of 25.92, but it wasn't enough to make it to the finals for this event either. Petrillo failed to make it to the finals in the 400 meters as well. And apparently all the TRAs and the woke news outlets are saying that this is proof that Petrillo is a woman. And Petrillo is actually the second trans athlete to compete at the Paralympics. The first one was Ingrid van Kranen, who competed in discus, a Dutch athlete, and that was at the Rio Olympics in 2016. And the woke news outlets, like MSNBC, I read an article from them, they're saying that nobody cared when it happened back then because it wasn't politicized. So this is all about politics, apparently. So after not qualifying for the 400 meter finals, Petrillo said, "I tried until the end. I couldn't do it. I missed that last straight. I pushed harder than this morning, and I tried. They are stronger than me. There is nothing I can do. I had to do 56 seconds to get into the finals. It's impossible. 57.58. I have to be happy even though I'm a little upset. But I hope my son is proud of me. That's important to me because I'm a trans dad. It's not everyone's dream dad, but I hope he will be proud of me. I hope he will always stand by me. I hope that he loves me even if I am like this. I can't help it if I'm like this. I'm sorry. Don't treat trans people badly. We suffer. It's not fair. We don't hurt anybody." It's also beautiful at the Paralympics. Afterwards, how will it be out there? It's not beautiful like this. It's not all purple out there. No, Petrillo, they are not stronger than you. They are females, perhaps a lot younger than you, and possibly in better shape. That's why Petrillo is able to move over from the men's category to the women's at the age of 51 and make it to the Paralympics, make it to that level of elite competition at the age of 51. Petrillo transitioned in 2019. Petrillo certainly went through male puberty because this person has children, fathered children, got married and everything. Petrillo recently released some photos pre-transition, and this is the same person. This person hasn't magically become female. This is the same person that these women are competing against, albeit older. And as you noticed, in the Paralympics, all the guides that the women ran with were male. Why? Because they're naturally faster. It's a lot easier for a man to vary his speed to match the woman's. If she speeds up, he can speed up and keep up with her pretty easily, since he's just naturally faster than her anyway. That's why they all ran with male guides. God bless those guides, by the way. That's an example of men assisting women in sports, not taking from them. That's an example of men contributing to women's sports in the most positive way. And then in the same race, you had somebody, he was using their male body to cheat. As J.K. Rowling rightly said, just being male gives you an advantage. That's why at the age of 51, in the women's category, you could still qualify for the Paralympics. You don't typically see 51-year-old men competing at that level with other men, or 51-year-old women competing at that level with other women. So just being in the women's category did bring Petrillo backlash. And one of Petrillo's biggest critics was J.K. Rowling. Petrillo mentioned something about being at risk of dying when you're trans. So if you criticize a male athlete competing in the female category, you are dismissing the plight of trans people, apparently who are at more risk of dying. There are so many people who die for for the mere fact of being trans people, who kill themselves for the mere fact of being trans because they lose their job, because the sport doesn't include them. And now I've made it, so we can all make it if I've made it. I've done my little bit, and we can all make it. This person competed in the men's category and had some success on a national level when competing with other men. Nobody is stopping a trans athlete from making it. There are other categories that they can compete in without infringing upon women's sports. And to mention tragedies of people unaliving themselves or being killed, to use that as a defense so that people can't state the obvious, that's very disingenuous, if you ask me, and a very big form of manipulation. They always seem to revert to that, unaliving and people losing their lives, as if that doesn't happen to women. So J.K. Rowling said, "Why all the anger about the inspirational Petrillo? The cheat community has never had this kind of visibility. Out and proud cheats like Petrillo prove the era of cheat shaming is over. What's a role model? I say we give Lance Armstrong his medals back and move on." Katrin Muller-Rothgart unfortunately did have to compete against this person. Remember, she said that basically everyone should live how they like in everyday life, but I find it difficult in professional sports. She lived and trained for a long time as a man, so there's a possibility that physical conditions are different than for someone who comes into the world as a woman. So she could have advantages from it. That doesn't sound hateful to me, to state the obvious. Katrin said that in a very respectful manner. But the issue is pointing out facts. That is offensive to people. So Petrillo hit back at critics and even cited a study commissioned by the woke IOC, who have suddenly forgotten that sports has categories. That sports has categories for a reason. The IOC, who would love us to forget that in 1900, the women's category was introduced to the Olympics for a very good reason, to include women. And it was acknowledged even back then that women needed their own category. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to compete in the first place, because they certainly aren't going there competing against the men. They weren't back then, and they're not now, except if one identifies as a woman. And all the woke publications are citing this study as if it negates centuries of scientific evidence, scientific fact that determines the differences between men and women. As if identity somehow negates that, as if taking hormones somehow makes men and women the same. As long as I take the hormones that are naturally occurring to women, I suddenly become a woman. They're citing this one study that was commissioned by a woke organization that has a vested interest in proving that their policy is correct, when we all know that it isn't. So Petrillo cited the study, published in April in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, funded by the IOC. So obviously, we know how it works. So Petrillo said, "This means rather that I have a disadvantage, because apart from anything else, going through hormonal treatment means I'm going against my body, so against the biology of my body, and that's certainly something that's not good for it." Well, I could agree. I could certainly agree with that. So the study said, contrary to what people say about males having an advantage over females in sports, it's different for trans women because they actually have a disadvantage over female athletes. This is what this study was asserting. So Petrillo is running with this and saying, yes, I actually have a disadvantage. No, you have lowered your performance ability against other men. You have disadvantaged yourself against other men. Your hormones and whatever medications you're taking doesn't take away your advantage over females. You still have a male body. You still have the bone density of a man. You went through male puberty. You have the height, the strength, the muscle mass of a man. That's not going to change because you're putting yourself at a disadvantage by taking hormones. A disadvantage against other men. And of course, Petrillo failing to qualify for the finals and not going home with 2 gold medals apparently makes Petrillo a woman. This is the logic or lack of logic that is being applied by these woke publications. They're claiming that Petrillo failing at something proves Petrillo's womanhood. How insulting. All they're doing is showing their bias. All they're doing is showing that they elevate men who identify as women, over females. This is who their priority is. It certainly isn't women. One article said, "We keep hearing about how trans athletes have a natural advantage in sports, and yet we're yet to see a trans athlete win an elite international title in any sport. No, Leah Thomas does not count for this. Yes, Leah Thomas certainly counts. An NCAA title is a pretty big deal. Leah Thomas certainly counts. And Leah Thomas wasn't winning NCAA titles while competing as Will Thomas against other men. It was an amateur, collegiate, non-elite level. I think Riley Gaines and the other female athletes and the other NCAA athletes would disagree. And her times were not necessarily comparable with the best swimmers in the world. That's not true. Because at one point, there was a concern that Leah was going to break Katie Ledecky's record. That's absolutely not true. They were concerned that Leah was going to break Katie Ledecky's record. And Leah did beat the a pool record, I believe it's called, for that particular competition. So as of now, they haven't won, Olympic titles or whatever. Although we have had 2 gold medals go to 2 male athletes. They're not trans, but they are male. This is only the beginning. If we allow this to continue, we are going to see male athletes in women's competitions continue to win gold medals at the Olympics, at the World Championships, and all of these elite international competitions. But what we are seeing now are female athletes being excluded from elite competitions because they lost out on a place to a male athlete, because they lost out on a place to a transgender athlete who claimed to be a woman. That's what we're seeing now. Petrillo took the place of a female athlete. That's fact. There's no way around that. And that is unacceptable. That is excluding women from their own sports. That is excluding females from their own category. Apparently, an open category isn't good enough for these male athletes. So it's okay to take a spot away from a female athlete while rejecting the other options that are available to them that would make this situation fair. The open categories. The category that aligns with their biological sex. It's okay to reject all of that and infringe upon the female category and disenfranchise female athletes. That's okay though. And Visegrad, 24, said, "The 50-year-old Italian transgender athlete, Valentina Petrillo, robbed a young disabled woman from a spot in the semi-finals of the Paris Paralympics today. Petrillo has previously said that those who don't want Petrillo to compete against females are on the same level." You can see the name there. The moment you point out biological fact, the moment you point out the obvious, they will liken you to such people. And it's not going to work because we have truth on our side. We have science on our side. We have facts on our side. So they can use all of these tactics all they want to silence people. But the more they do that, the more they prove that they know that they are pushing a losing argument. So Petrillo had this snarky response for J.K. Rowling, but it backfired big time. Petrillo said, "I'm flattered that Rowling is talking about me. I've never read Harry Potter. I'm told she wrote it, but I didn't read it. By the way, I was told that she, in her own book, wrote about a sport where there is no gender. So I was expecting different behaviour from Rowling." And JK's response was, "In fairness, if never reading Harry Potter turned a man into a woman, this would be a really strong counter-argument. Did you ever think this is something you'd even have to say? I've never even read Harry Potter, ha ha ha." This is a typical narc response. Trying to lower your importance by being like, "I've never even heard of you. You're irrelevant." Many such cases. Thinking it would work on JKFR? Hilarious. A biological male can never be a woman no matter what they read. As a transsexual, I understand this. Oh, I suppose you've got evidence that not reading Harry Potter doesn't turn men into women? Sir, why are you in women's sports? I've never even read a biology book. I've seen the films, but not read the books. Where would that leave me? JK responded, you chose only one of the binaries, so you're marooned on Cis Island, I'm afraid. So you better make sure that if you call out a male athlete for competing in the women's category, if you call them a cheat and things like that, you better make sure that that male athlete has heard of you, has read your books, knows all about you. Otherwise your argument is null and void, apparently. So let's just take a look at this individual. This person released some photos, pre-transition. Were we lying when we said that this person was male? This person competed against male athletes in the men's category. This person has released photos getting married and everything. This is the same person. Changing your outward appearance, growing your hair, wearing makeup. It doesn't mean that that is not the same person. Wearing earrings. It's the same person. This person is male. I don't know what Petrillo was thinking releasing these photos, as if this adds to your case. All it does is reinforce exactly what we're saying. And yes, you probably don't perform as well against other men while taking estrogen and being 51 now. Okay, you're still male. And you know what? I always like to remind everybody of this. Advantages are not the be-all and end-all. Or your performance is not the be-all and end-all. The fact is, male athletes do not belong in women's categories. Women's sports is not to be played with. Women's sports is not an experiment. It has been there from the very beginning, or at least when they allowed women to actually participate, and it should not be infringed upon by male athletes who couldn't hack it competing against other male athletes. And now want to come over and have their glory in a women's category. You see the double standard? Now women have to be exceptional to the point where they can beat men, but a mediocre male athlete can cross over and now start doing what they were unable to do while competing against men. And nobody sees that there's something off about that. So let me know what you think. Am I missing something here? So thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Like, comment and subscribe, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.